Holden Captiva 2.2 turbo diesel. Customer complaint on this one is it's cutting out intermittently, performance issues, and in this video I'm going to be taking you through the process of how I found and fixed this fault. So on this Holden Captiva, when I went in through the Australia section, so Holden Australia and not through GM, it was failing to communicate. It just kept circling and looking for the vehicle without actually communicating. So if you look down the bottom here, GM Captiva 2011, that is what I went in through. I went in through the GM side, and then it found the vehicle and was able to scan it straight away. So this Captiva is cutting out intermittently, engine light on, and these are all the fault codes that's on it. So intake manifold runner control valve control circuit, performance, intake airflow valve stuck open, intake airflow position, intake airflow position. So we have a problem with airflow in the intake. We have freeze frame data, we have code search, we have data stream. So I'll just quickly take you through my thought process as I'm analyzing this. So I bring up the freeze frame data and I'm looking through it. I can see that the engine speed is at 0 RPM. That could be the fact that it was cutting out and capturing. It could be a glitch with the amount of parameters it's trying to capture at one time. It was registering the engine speed RPM on one of the freeze frame data, but not on two of them. The throttle position at the bottom of the screen there is saying 254%. That was consistent across all of the freeze frame data. So we had a consistency of 254% across that throttle. That, in conjunction with the intake airflow valve being 3 of the fault codes that are stored, led me, and that can be aka a throttle body, that led me on to the next part of my analysis. I wanted to bring this back on the road, do a test drive, do a live screen capture of that test drive with the engine RPM and the intake airflow valve position, and see what was happening as we're test driving. So I'm going to show you that in the next clip. There was a couple of other fault codes related to glow plugs on this. They were already on the vehicle previously. That is a non-issue. So the faults that we're looking at is all related to the airflow valve and intake airflow position. So next stage now is to bring it on that road test, and I'm going to show you that live data reading. And what you can see here now is the screen capture I got when I was doing that test drive. So I'll press play in a second and then I'll zoom through this as fast as possible. But this is the intake airflow valve. That's one of the pins that I put up, and the vehicle speed. So it's at 100%, but we want to see that changing as the vehicle speed changes, because of course that flap should be opening, that valve should be opening dependent on the load that's on the vehicle. So I'll press play now, and I will track through this, and you can see there the vehicle speed is now changing, alternating, but that is staying at 100%. Now there was one moment on the test drive where it did just, there we go, wake up for a second, went to 93, 95, and then it got stuck at 100% again. So that is confirmation that we have a fault in the airflow valve position, because it's staying stuck at the same position pretty much all of the time. And that leads me on to the next checks, which is the airflow valve, which you're seeing here. Check the electrical connector, check the wiring going to it, check the pins and the terminal tension to make sure that there's no issue there, and that all what you want to have going down is there, which in this case it was. A couple of notes for yourself: if you're doing it, you can try and bi-directionally control it, command it on and off to see if you can get it to move. Also throttle relearn, clear the codes, and just see if anything comes back to life. In this case there was no rectification for it. This valve had failed, and I spoke to the customer and they gave the go ahead to actually replace this with a genuine new part. What you're seeing here is that new part being installed. A bit of a process, not the easiest one in the world to do with the location of it, but got it installed, got everything reattached, and then it was a case of relearn the values into it and bring it for a road test, which is the clips you're going to see next. And before I bring it for any road test, I have a couple of things to do. I need to clear off all the fault codes and make sure that they are remaining off. I also have to do that relearn. Now, previously, when all of these fault codes were attempted to be cleared, some of them would, but a couple of them were remaining current, meaning that you couldn't take them off. They were a hard code, they were constantly stored. In this case, you can now see all codes have cleared off. So I then go to the special functions side of the scan tool, click into learn functions. We can see the intake airflow valve learn. I click on that, and then you just follow the steps that the scan tools tells you to do. This can take 30 seconds to 2 minutes depending on, but it's going to be a guided function, a very straightforward process. We're going to cycle the key off first of all, and then we're going to let the diagnostic scan tool tell us each stage as we go. So it's communicating and it's going through the process. You're getting a timer or a countdown timer in some cases, letting you know how long before you go on to the next stage. But you just have to follow this along. As long as the voltage remains high on the vehicle, you'll be all good with this one. We turn the key on again, and we go on to the next process, and then we can see the intake airflow valve learn performed successfully. So it has gone through successfully. Now, before we do the road test, I want to re-scan to see if any codes come back, and it's just the glow plug. So successfully all have remained off, and now we do that road test. All set up now, running. Engine lights are off, cleared the codes, and you can see intake airflow valve position is 100%, engine speed RPM fluctuating at idle, and then I'm going to press the throttle and look for the response. And you can now see the intake airflow valve, aka throttle body, is now responsive like it should have been on the initial road test. So we now have relearned that into position, all back, fault codes are cleared, and this is now ready for a road test. Just heading back to the workshop now after the final test drive on this vehicle. Engine light is now off, staying off, and the intake airflow valve is functioning as it should. I have the live data monitoring beside me here, and that intake airflow valve is changing all of the time depending on the load that it's required to, which is exactly what we would expect. On the initial test drive, that was the major red flag for me. When you have a fault code and then you have a valve that's non-operational, you also had fault codes directly related to stuck open, and then you're seeing 100%, which means it's doing absolutely nothing. There's no changing depending on driving style, there's no changing depending on load. You have to go down and test that straight away to see if there's any function at all. This one wasn't capable of doing it. Once we put in the new one, relearned it to the system using the Think Tool Master that I have here, it was fully operational again, and that fault is now rectified. So the cutting out of traffic lights, that should all be gone away now, and the customer will be able to drive with peace of mind that this vehicle is back to normal again. And that is it for this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you found it useful and informative. If you did, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.